Hey guys, so today I will be updating you guys on the Georgia Senate runoff races between Jon Ossoff and David Perdue, as well as Kelly Loeffler and Raphael Warnock. So taking a look at the latest data for the Georgia Senate runoffs, what you'll see is that Jon Ossoff now leads by 1%, much greater than the 0.3% lead that he held a couple days ago. The last time that we looked at this race, it was at around plus 0.3. For Raphael Warnock, he now leads by 1.6%. That it is a little bit smaller than the last time we took a look at this race, but he still remains to be quite a bit ahead of Kelly Loeffler in the polls. So taking a look at the latest polls, you'll see that the two latest Trafalgar Group polls, they all show Jon Ossoff doing better than Raphael Warnock. Before we continue, make sure you join my Discord server if you have not, the link to which is at the very top of the description below. We're updating you guys on the race a lot more over there. So taking a look at these polls, what you will see right here is that Jon Ossoff plus 3% after the polls were adjusted by 538 from Trafalgar Group from the 8th to the 10th of December. This one conducted in early December showed Ossoff plus 3, while Loeffler and Warnock, it was Loeffler plus 5 adjusted to a tie, and then Warnock plus 1 after the adjustment in the latest poll from Trafalgar Group. So what is surprising is that there are those voters who are actually going to vote for Kelly Loeffler, but not vote for David Perdue, at least according to these polling numbers, because consistently throughout the race, it seemed as if that David Perdue was doing better than Kelly Loeffler, and that Jon Ossoff was doing just a little bit worse than Raphael Warnock. That was a consistent trend. However, these latest polls show that Jon Ossoff might not be doing, as worse compared to Raphael Warnock. So the numbers here, they are not too great for the Republican Party because of how accurate the polls here were in the state of Georgia for the 2020 election. They were much more accurate here than they were in many other states. I mean, Wisconsin was off by 7-8 percentage points, same with Michigan, but in the state of Georgia, it really was pretty accurate. The polling average between Joe Biden and Donald Trump in the state of Georgia was Biden plus 1.2%. The race here actually ended up to be a margin of 0.25% or 24% now after they're, counting more votes, but now 0.24% in favor of Joe Biden. So the polls here were only wrong by less than 1 percentage point. And if we were to apply that swing from the polls, you would see that both Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock would win their races, and they would win 50% as they're the only two candidates on each of the ballots. So right now, these numbers, they are pretty favorable for the Democratic Party, although that definitely does not mean that they are going to win these races as of right now. Taking a look at the morning consult data, these are some new polls showing the approval rating of Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue, the two incumbent senators from the state of Georgia. You'll see that David Perdue's approval rating before the election, this is just among all of voters. Before the election, it was an approval rating of 48% and a disapproval rating of 32%. After the election, this number has actually dropped. It is now a 46% approval rating for David Perdue to a 35% disapproval rating for him in the state of Georgia. For Kelly Loeffler, it is currently a 44% to 43% approval rating for Kelly Loeffler. Before the election, it was 42 to 39. So although Kelly Loeffler has gained in terms of the amount of people who approve of her, she has also gained a lot of those who do not approve of her in the state of Georgia. For David Perdue, you just see both of these numbers in a negative trend for him. He lost support among those who approved of him before, and he gained even more voters who disapprove of him as of right now after the election. So David Perdue, Kelly Loeffler, they are not too popular among Republicans. David Perdue is losing more support than Kelly Loeffler, who had actually gained quite a bit of support among the Republican Party after the 2020 election, while David Perdue has lost considerable amounts of support compared to his counterpart in the state of Georgia. So tracking them, this is tracking how they have voted. David Perdue's Trump score right now is 95.2% in terms of how much he has agreed with President Trump. And then for Kelly Loeffler, it is currently 91.7%. So they do vote with Donald Trump in basically every single bill that goes through the Senate that Donald Trump supports. Kelly Loeffler actually has voted, with Trump in every single bill except for the latest National Defense Authorization Act. This is the only bill that Kelly Loeffler did not agree with Trump on, and it was an 83-13 vote, so that was a pretty strong majority in favor of this bill that Donald Trump did oppose. For David Perdue, you see a pretty similar trend. This most recent vote he did not vote for. However, the ones in the past, a lot of them, basically all of them, he voted, with Donald Trump on these bills. So these two senators, they are all very, very supportive of President Trump. I would say that at least publicly, Kelly Loeffler is the strongest supporter of Donald Trump. And I think that is why, as of right now, he is doing better, because there are a lot of Georgians who are saying that these senators are not doing enough to help overturn the results in the state of Georgia in favor of the current president. And Kelly Loeffler, I think, is making a stronger stance in favor of Donald Trump winning the state than David Perdue is, although Donald Trump has gone to the state of Georgia quite a few times to campaign for both of these candidates. And I think that did help them quite a bit, because there are a lot of Republicans that were not going to vote for these two senators unless they, demand that the results be overturned in the state of Georgia, or at least do a lot more about it. That's what a lot of Republicans were wanting from these two senators, and they just did not, because I don't think that they think that Joe Biden lost the state of Georgia. I think they know that Trump lost the state of Georgia, just like Brian Kemp knows that too, which is why he is not supporting Donald Trump, although he has lost quite a bit of Republican support there in the state of Georgia. His approval rating has dropped 6% overall after the 2020 election because he refused to support Donald Trump, while David Perdue is not supporting him as much, so that's why his numbers have gone down, while Kelly Loeffler has been a pretty strong proponent of Trump, and her numbers have gone up. However, in the debate between Warnock and Loeffler, she declined to say that neither Trump or Biden won the race there in the state of Georgia. She did say that Donald Trump should be given the opportunity to go through all of these legal proceedings, which I think he should be able to do that, but I mean, at this point, he's not going to win any of them. He's 1 in 54, 55, I believe, as that Texas case was just rejected. So really, Donald Trump has zero chance of the presidency at this point in time. The Electoral College is going to vote in just 2 days, and that will finally officially certify the results. And once Congress approves of it, Joe Biden is going to be inaugurated in January. So everything is pointing towards, Donald Trump has completely lost everything. That Texas case was something that the Trump campaign was working on so long, and the Supreme Court, 9-2 decision, voted to not even hear the case, and the two that did not, that did vote that they should hear it, they did publicly say that they were probably definitely not going to vote in favor of Donald Trump, even if they heard the case. They just thought that the case was supposed, should have been heard. But, it's pretty unanimous that they do not support Donald Trump, in terms of how he's trying to get this election. They know that Trump has lost the 2020 election, and Trump appointed a third of the judges on the Supreme Court. You had Neil Gorsuch, you had Brett Kavanaugh, and of course you had Amy Coney Barrett. None of them voted in favor of Donald Trump on the Supreme Court. So that plan has completely backfired. He's indicated that he wants them to help him win the election, but they just have not done that for the president. These numbers, they are not too great right now for the Republican Party. I think that they're doing better than I expected. If you were to take a look at the Senate results, you will see that Jon Ossoff did lose by a margin of 1.8% to David Perdue. However, that is a margin that is not, small in any way, but it's a margin that I think he definitely still does have a chance of being able to win this race. I think that 1.8%, he can flip that if he, does get things right, and there are a lot of voters who are more enthusiastic, especially on the Democratic side, because turnout is going to be lower. It is not going to be almost 5 million votes. It's going to be 4 million or less, maybe even 3 million, as runoffs, typically always have less turnout, and Democrats typically turn out less historically than Republicans do in these runoff races. However, with Joe Biden winning the state of Georgia for the first time on the presidential level since 1992, I think that a lot of Democrats here are going to turn out for these two candidates once again. And, Democrats are really just stressing how important this race is. Republicans are there too as well. And this time, Republicans, they do need to bring out more votes. Joe Biden was able to bring out 12 million more voters for the Democratic Party than Barack Obama was able to bring out in 2008, and that was the largest amount of votes any candidate received ever. Donald Trump brought out 74 million voters. That's almost 10 million more votes than he received in 2016. So both candidates were able to bring out a lot more voters. Just Joe Biden was able to bring out more than Donald Trump, which is why he won the popular vote by a margin of 7 million votes, which is a pretty large margin. And then on the Senate level, although Joe Biden did much better than Jon Ossoff here, he can still definitely, as long as he gets that turnout to be high enough, he has a very, very good shot at winning this race. Raphael Warnock, same problem here. He was able to win 32.9%, Kelly Loeffler's 25.9%, Doug Collins there at 20%. He has endorsed Kelly Loeffler as he was another Republican that split the ticket for the Republican Party, but now it is more unified, so now it's just Warnock versus Loeffler, and we'll see what happens here. Warnock, of course, doing very well in that Atlanta region. So these votes, Warnock was able to win by 7%, but it was a pretty disappointing margin considering what the polls were saying about this race. He was supposed to win by at least 10%, and that just did not happen. But it's a little bit more realistic. All these Doug Collins voters, they're not going to just vote for Kelly Loeffler because Collins was a Republican. I mean, there's a reason they didn't vote for Loeffler, so a lot of them are going to vote for Raphael Warnock, and it's not just all going to go to Kelly Loeffler. So and the numbers are showing that Warnock has been consistently leading over Kelly Loeffler in the runoff race here for the special election, while Jon Ossoff has just recently overtaken David Perdue. So right now, the Republicans, they should be worried. There's still another month to go, but I think that they should not be confident about this race at all. Taking a look at the betting odds, you see that the numbers are getting closer by a little bit, much closer than they were just right after the election. I mean, Purdue's numbers have dropped by 2% today, while Jon Ossoff has increased by 1% in the betting odds, or decreased by 2 cents and 1 cent per share for both of these candidates. Taking a look at the numbers between Warnock and Loeffler, you see that there is a 4-cent increase in terms of Warnock's share today, so he would be right around there, 42% after today, so that would be a pretty large gain, the second highest or third highest point he's ever been after election night. So yeah, definitely these numbers are affecting the betting odds. The Democrats do seem to be trending upwards while the Republicans are losing. However, 37% and 42%, that may not, they may not be leading in terms of the betting odds, but 40%, you can definitely win a race if you have 42 cents in terms of the betting odds. Donald Trump's numbers were much, much lower, and he was able to win the 2020 election. So really, these numbers can definitely, still, although they are in favor of the Republicans right now, the Democrats can definitely still win these two races. And I think that as of right now, the Democrats are favored to win the race, the Senate special election between Warnock and Loeffler. And in this race right now, I do think that Jon Ossoff has a very, very slight edge, just because the polls were a little bit more accurate here than they were in other states. So that 1% might just really be a very small margin for Jon Ossoff at the very end, but we'll see. I will be making an official final prediction towards the end when we have more numbers coming out of the state, because really there aren't too many polls, but the 5 latest polls do show Jon Ossoff leading in the Georgia Senate runoff, and in the Georgia Senate special runoff, you see that Warnock leads in 4 out of the last 5 polls here in the state of Georgia. So really these numbers, they should be positive, but definitely both candidates have to, in both races, they have to, they have to campaign a lot if they want to win these races. It's really just all about turnout. They really should not be trying to get new voters that did not vote in the election to turn out, but new numbers do show that I'm pretty sure there were quite a few voters who did not vote in the 2020 election but did register to vote in the Georgia Senate runoffs in the state of Georgia, so that is positive for the Democratic Party, as most of them were Democrats. And these numbers, really, turnout is going to be lower, that's just a fact. But Jon Ossoff, Raphael Warnock, they just need to get more voters who probably would not have voted in the runoff in a normal runoff to vote in this runoff because of how important this is. This will literally decide the makeup of the United States Senate. If they win, it'll be 50-50, and in the case of a tie, then Kamala Harris would break every single tie in favor of the Democratic Party. So that is why these two seats are so important. If it was 51-49, that would be alright for the Democrats. I think 48-50 is a little bit more of a stretch. You do have some swing voters like Susan Collins in the state of Maine or Lisa Murkowski in Alaska, those kinds of swing voters, even Mitt Romney sometimes. So really, a 48-50 Senate wouldn't be horrible, but definitely not what Democrats want. 49-50, I think they could work with, and 50-50, they would be able to get a lot of stuff that Joe Biden wants past the Senate. So really, these two seats are just really important because they're going to decide what Joe Biden can do or cannot do in his first term in office, whether or not he can get, those COVID-19 stimulus bills out, as I'm pretty sure Mitch McConnell is working to block this compromise bill as of right now. And on the House level, you'll see it's still 222 to 211. Definitely very, very disappointing for the Democratic Party. But we have some races that are just so close. I mean, in the state of Iowa, Marionette Miller Meeks is currently leading by 6 votes against Rita Hart, and I'm pretty sure they're trying to get Congress or Rita Hart trying to get Congress to overturn that Miller Meeks won this race. However, it's too early to make a projection right now, and that's why it is still in the remaining section on this electoral map here on the New York Times. And in the 22nd district of New York, again, a very, very close race, just 12 votes there with 99% reporting. If that 1% is very favorable towards the Democrats, they could definitely win this race, as the votes that came later in the state of New York, they were very, very heavily Democratic. And then Iowa, there's still I believe around 40 something votes that are yet to be counted, just overseas votes and stuff like that, military ballots. So the House right now, Democrats have won control very, very narrowly. It was expected to be around 230 seats. 236, I believe that was the number. So really a very, very big disappointment for Democrats on the House level. Senate also kind of disappointing, but right now these two runoffs are giving the Democratic Party hope, and I think that they definitely have a very good chance at winning these two runoff races. Raphael Warnock, Jon Ossoff would be able to carry the Democrats to victory after very disappointing showings from Cal Cunningham, who I think really has let the Democratic Party down because he lost because of that scandal, and it was completely his fault, and really it didn't hurt his poll numbers that much, but it just made a lot of voters who probably would have voted for him really just not be too excited to vote for Cal Cunningham. And Iowa wasn't close at all. Even worse for Sarah Gideon, who was by all means going to win this race in Maine. Montana wasn't close either, 10%. So really the Democrats had a very disappointing night on election night in the Senate and the House, but we'll see how these two races turn out. So thank you guys so much for watching this video today. I basically just updated you guys a little bit more on the Georgia Senate runoffs, where as of right now, Jon Ossoff leads in the last 5 polls out of this state after 538 has adjusted it. Well, even without the adjustments, David Perdue has not led in polls since mid-November. That's a month ago. And the same thing for Raphael Warnock. Kelly Loeffler has not led in a poll ever, and Warnock has led in 4 out of the last 5 polls. So I'd like to thank you guys so much for watching this video. Like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you join the Discord server if you have not, the link to which again is at the very top of the description below. And I will see you guys in the next video.